Welcome to another episode of Chopping It Up with Visionary. I am your host, Mike the Visionary. I'm here with...
Lord Unknown, man.
How you doing tonight?
Chilling. Just had a show with my man Wiki. We just killed it. It was lit. I don't know, man.
And on our way here, you were telling me about some exciting things, tours, etc. Do you want to get into that before we dive into your discography?
Yeah, we're gonna leave that for. We're gonna leave that up to debate. We're gonna see what happens in the near future.
Try wait for white night not the white night type. More than French from before. LA shorty this returns for more. Other girls return.
And I want to jump ahead a little bit. 2017, you worked with Critch and Rich the Kid. And that was kind of like the height of their careers a little bit. You know, they had the whole Rich Forever movement going on. Do you want to go into what it was like working with them and how that even came about?
Yeah, that was a cool experience. So Critch is from Fort Greene. He's kind of close to my neighborhood and shit. And a childhood friend of mine, my boy Aaron, he's a rapper as well. He's a part of TME, and he put me on and shit. And I was also really good friends with LaRon too. That's my homie and shit from making music and shit. So, you know, Critch came through the studio session one night and with everyone, Molly and everyone, and we recorded Deposit, yeah. And over time, I guess we had it in the stash for a couple months or whatever, and then Rich the Kid heard it, and one day, it was actually 4th of July, it was funny. I was at my family's barbecue or whatever, and I get this Instagram DM or whatever, a forwarded message of Rich in the fucking Bentley or whatever, Bentley truck, listening to Deposit and shit, and that shit was dope. And then I got a hit up maybe a couple weeks later, and Rich was in the studio recording his verse and shit. So that's how that came about.
Word.
That was real dope.
And you went into Deposit, but what about Devastated with only Critch on
Okay,
it?
that's another one. Devastated. That's a beat that me and LaRon made a minute ago, probably 2017, whatever. And that was just one of those Critch songs that were just never came out because a lot of his music was leaking in that time and shit like that. And I guess it was during COVID or whatever. We probably dropped it 3 years later. And yeah, that came about like that. That's a good one. That's a slept-on track right there.
I loved it. As soon as I heard it, I had to note that down. But obviously, you're from New York. I look at New York as one of those places where it's just full of opportunities to meet with creators and, you know, just a whole bunch of people that you would want to make a way with in your career. How did you navigate your way into finding people that you can build with and are like-minded, such as Papo, 2004, Subjxct 5, YL?
Cool. I mean, shit, with Papo and Sub and them was just honestly, it's just 7 degrees of separation, you know what I mean? You might have a friend that knows them that puts you onto their music, and then the scene shit is kind of small at the end of the day, you know what I mean? New York is a big place, but everyone kind of knows of each other, and they're from Jersey, but we already were tapped in. So same thing with YL, Starker. I grew up with Stark. Well, I didn't grow up with him, but we were friends since we were 15 through collecting sneakers and shit. And YL with him been doing shit for hella years, so it's just been put on through people like that and shit like that. So it's really just you be outside, you do something that's like-minded, you know what I mean? You have some creativity and talent to it, people are gonna flock to it, you know?
Right.
I feel but New York City is a small place. I feel if you don't know someone, there's always someone that knows that person. It's always a reach away and shit. So, yeah.
Word. And within that topic, I want to talk about your partnership / friendship, relationship, whatever, with Subjxct 5. So you've been featured on basically every Papo and Subjxct album.
Yeah, for the recent years.
From the recent years, including Dirty Designer with DJ Lucas on it. Can you go into how you two even started working together?
Yeah, definitely. I mean, I was a fan. My boy Chip had showed me their music years and years ago, and was yo, these guys right here are dope. They make good music and shit. You should tap in, you know. I fuck with their shit, he fucked with this shit. So I was fucking with other producers at that era, my boy Goner and my boy Papora and Joe Aste and people, and they had had a studio session or whatever. It was all little pre-COVID, around COVID and shit. We finally linked up and we just started cooking up. And me and Subjxct, we have hella things that we like wrestling and shit. So like, it'd be funny. It'd just be like, "How you good? You good?
You can go by.
So yeah, like we just have a lot of shit in common, music taste and shit like that. Subjxct's the GOAT, man. It's like besides the music shit, just like he's a great person and shit like that. So yeah.
Word. And speaking of your collaborations with him, Papo just dropped Mr. 3000. You're co-produced. You have co-producer credits on 3 tracks.
3 or 4, yes.
Clean Money, One for the People. I'm forgetting the last one. Y'all Fucked Up Now. Which one is your favorite and why?
Damn, I think One for the People we made like a year ago. The other 2 songs that we made, those are kind of like of recent. Like we made those maybe like over the summer and shit. And Chubby Papo was just like, yeah, I'm putting those shits on the tape, if it's the tape and shit. I like all those shits for different feelings and shit. I did the melodies and on One for the People, I guess that would be a sample. I chopped the sample or whatever. I think which one was the first one you said?
Clean Money.
Clean Money is probably like my favorite one off that shit. Like it just knocks differently. It's funny because Subby's saying the same thing. Like that's like his favorite song on that tape and shit. But there's a lot of good ones on that whole entire tape. So probably Clean Money. But One for the People though, that shit knocks crazy though. Like the bass in that shit is like fucking intense. So.
And that's one thing that stands out about your music because you can't really box you in. You can't box you into a subgenre. Mm-hmm. But matter of fact, I can't even say when I hear a beat I know it's you. So it's kind of like, where did you find a way to be different, and who inspired you in that aspect?
Damn, all right, that's a good question. It's funny because like I feel like over years, like my inspirations have just changed and shit. If you talked to me like 10 years ago, I could have told you like Sean Price and like Jay Dilla or like Pete Rock or something like crazy like that. And now it's just like, I feel like I get most inspired by the people I'm around, to be honest with you nowadays. And, you know, being a product of, I'm getting old now, I'm 31, so being a child in the early 2000s and things, like that's like an unappreciated music time, I feel like, in that era. Like when they switched from going from samples to like melodies and shit. And not to hate on people nowadays, because I'm not gonna hate, but like type beats and things like that, it just gets boring, you know? So like, I like to not box myself in. If I'm making melodies or making a beat, you know, I might be feeling one way one week. The next week I might be want to do something creative and might have been listening to a certain artist for a minute and be like, all right, not that I want to recreate that sound, but like somewhat like give it the same feel or something of that sort. So
show that it inspired you a little bit.
Yeah, type shit. Yeah, because like Clean Money and shit like that, it's got little Neptune feels to it and shit like that. So shit like that, I think those melodies and things, shit that I was making, it was like, because I was over the summer when I was working and shit, just like listening to a lot of shit like that at that time. So
shit, I hold it, unfold it, bonus, geek, work. That's as much about the body that I need to know. Turn to shorty, mommy, I need to go.
I think it might be like the only OCD that I have is just like, if I make 6 of the same beat in one day, it's cool, but I get bored quickly. So it's like, all right, I made 2 of these type things. Let me try to do something else, or you know what I mean? Because as a producer, it's the same thing as like rappers. You get into producer block where you just are not inspired by anything. And it's just like, oh, I've been making these type of things for like a week and a half and I've really been enjoying it. But now it's like, I want to do something different. So, you know, you got to start listening to shit, go back to the drawing board, you know, shit like that. It's good to like try to mix genres and shit like that too, and like maybe it gives you an old feel of like some 90s shit or 2000 shit, but it's still fresh and sounds new, something like you never heard before. So that's what I really try to tackle, just like sound design, hearing certain sounds and shit like that, and playing shit. So yeah,
got you. And it's kind of within the same topic. You produce for a lot of artists, you co-produce with a lot of producers. When do you have time to just work on Lord Unknown shit?
Oh yeah, you know, it's funny because I make a lot of beats on my own time and shit. Real New York shit. We gonna let the train pass. I work on a lot of shit by myself, and I feel like it just gets trapped on the computer. You know, I'm not the biggest fan of just like sending beats out anymore. Like that's a process of. Got to remember who you sent those beats out to. If someone places it and they don't send it back to you, you don't know, and now someone else is rapping on it. It's like it's too confusing. So, you know, I just like to get in where I fit in and just like work with the people that I fuck with on a. It's bigger than music. It's like friendship shit, like, you know. So at the end of the day, where that comes from is the organicness of everything. So I think that's how I can explain it.
And I can feel the organicness, and that's why I was really curious about how y'all were able to build such a tight-knitted relationship amongst each other.
We just, you know, like, I guess people might just think like, oh, you link up with Lucas or someone like that and shit like that. Like, we hang out. It's not always just like we hang out. We have to make music. It's not like I link Wick and it's like, oh yeah, we got to work music. We hang out. Like, those are people that I genuinely appreciate and like shit like that. Like, they're good people and shit and friends. Like, that's, I think, the most important thing. You know, like, you can make a song, get a placement with someone, and it's awesome. But there's a special feeling of making that shit in the moment from scratch, having someone rap on it, sitting there being like, this is fire, you know, like, then getting something back. I mean, sometimes people be out of state, so you gotta send shit, you know what I mean? But I like to keep myself busy. I like to collab because it gives like the best of both worlds, you know what I mean? And it's not like, oh, like, you could collab with everyone, like, not trying to whore the shit out, but there's certain people that, like, I just make beats with that we just work really well together and shit, have the same ear for what we want to make and shit. So that's where that all comes from and shit, you know. But it really comes from friendship. That's really what it really comes from.
No, that's amazing. You kind of answered like a little bit of my next question, but what does creating music do for you that nothing else in your life can?
I mean, it just, I'm not gonna say happiness because I have happiness from all like walks of life, but I think music for me, like, in the sense of, I've always been a fan since I was a kid, like rap music, but all types of music. I think making music, though, besides of like, you know, getting different opportunities and things like that, it's just a way to express yourself. It's the only way I know how to express myself best. I let the beats or the music talk for it, you know.
His name is Mercedes, maiden name Garcia, my other grandma's was Grady.
And just off that love of music, we kind of spoke a little bit earlier about your you have an installment series, Lord Knows. You have 4 volumes.
Yeah.
Which one is your favorite?
Oh man, I feel like because I spread it out, I took a little time off in between the first and second one from the third and fourth. I feel like the third and fourth are probably my favorite currently because there's just more up-to-date shit. But the first and second ones were just experiments, you know, and people kind of liked them and shit. They got views and shit, and I appreciated it. It just made me want to be like, all right, I'm gonna keep going and shit. My buddy Ernesto, he used to be like a DJ at nightclubs, and he's my good friend's older brother and shit. Like, around that era is when he was like, yo, you should just start dropping mixes and shit like that. And I always like putting like acapellas or remixes over beats because it, you know, you might make a beat and hear something and you can show a rapper that should be like, you know, not like carbon copy the shit, but like, hey, like, this might be a way to like approach the song type shit. Like, listen to this shit, I put a fabulous acapella over this shit. You should maybe do some shit like that. Like, shit like that just sounds cool, you know? But then you might get stuck with just having hella acapellas, you know, or like remixes and shit. You don't always want that. But in the 90s, like, you would buy like a vinyl, you know what I mean, a record or whatever. It'd be like one song or whatever. Like, I got a Nas One Love original or whatever. And there's like 3 different remixes to the song and shit like that with different beats and shit like that. So I feel like remixing has always been a part of rap.
I have a record like that, but it's halftime.
Yeah, hell yeah. That's fire. Hell yeah. See, and it probably has like a posse cut acapella version or whatever. Mm-hmm. Yeah. See, like shit like that, I feel like it's awesome. Like, you find like old Jay Dilla remixes, old Pete Rock remixes, old DJ Premier remixes, shit like that. Like, I feel like people need to do that more, like producers and shit. Like, with current day shit though too. Yeah. I'd be liking to do a lot of current day shit, even like homies and shit.
Can't just give them a nice walking, I start walking, maybe no thunder, lightning storm.
And for the last question, we kind of hinted at it towards the beginning of the interview, but are there any projects or collabs maybe coming up or even for next year that you can announce today freely?
I mean, shit, man. There's a few things that I'm co-collabs, features, and shit like that. All I'm gonna say is this. I'll give you a little sneak peek. Why on Subjxct have a crazy tape coming out. We have personally a few joints on that shit that is like probably some of the best music we've made of all time, me and Sub. So I really look forward to that. Watch out for Wiki in 2025. Watch out for Papo. He has so much crazy music that we have that's unreleased. I'm just working with the gang, man. I hope this song that me and Mike and Sideshow and Tony have, I hope that shit comes out. Y'all don't know about that. But
when did y'all record that? You can't just slide that in there, man. That sounds like a good song right there.
Yeah, hopefully it comes out. It's just one of those ones, you know. Shout out to Tony. It's my we grew up in the same neighborhood and shit, so I've known him for a minute as well. So shout out to him. Oh yeah.
Word. Well, it's been about 20 minutes. We cold as fuck.
Oh yeah.
I think it's time to wrap it up. I appreciate your time, man.
Likewise, man. Thank you, bro.
This has been Chopping It Up with Visionary. Are there any lessons that you've learned in the music industry that have translated into your personal life?
Most definitely. I think, you know, just being yourself, you know, getting in where you fit in, not trying to be extra or do something.
Don't blame my call and be hitting me up. No more time for tears, got no choice but making a song cry.